In this video, we're going to be comparing the Halo, the Torchstar, and the Ensenior 6-inch LED recessed lights. Stay tuned, it's all coming up next. What's going on, folks? Ken here with Manos for Pros and Joes, helping you simplify the renovation and remodeling process. On this channel, we do hands-on product, tool, and gear reviews, as well as renovation tip and strategy videos. So if you're interested in renovation, remodeling, repair, real estate, home improvement, or property maintenance, then subscribe, because this channel and this content is for you. So if you've been tuned into the videos recently, you will notice that we've done quite a few videos on recessed LED lights. And I wanted to follow back up and do a recap now that we've got hands-on experience with multiple different brands in a relatively short window of time. And we're going to talk about the Halo brand, we're going to talk about the Torchstar brand, we're going to talk about the Ensenior brand. We're going to start with Halo, then we're going to jump to Ensenior, and then Torchstar. And so let's go ahead and unbox as we speak. We'll talk about some of the features that are different on this fixture than the other ones. So the first difference between the Halo recessed light and the Torchstar and Ensenior is that the Halo recessed light comes out of the box already pre-assembled. And so you've got two different pieces on all three of these fixtures, which is that the illumination portion of it, which has the LEDs, and the portion that houses your wiring are separate pieces. So when you take this one out of the box, this is already assembled and you're essentially ready to go ahead and begin installing. Typically, the only reason why you would need to detach these two pieces from each other is that if you are in a situation where you're not able to fish this box through your hole in the ceiling, you've got to actually detach this and take this and attach it from the top side, and then fish your wire, or this portion of the wire, down through the ceiling and make your connection then on the bottom side inside of your finished area. That's pretty much the only scenario that I run into where we've had to actually do that. The next thing that you want to also keep in mind is that with relation to each one of these fixtures, this fixture has very strong clips. And the importance of the clips is that it helps to hold the fixture in place. Once you've got this unit seated, you want to have it as snug as possible on the back side, between the back of the fixture and your ceiling on your finished room. And so you want this to hug tightly and basically pull this up snug to the ceiling so that you don't see any gaps around the edges. And so the clips on this fixture are very good. The next thing I want to point out is going to be that these lights are also connected by using the mouse trap setup for your wiring. And so that's these little connection boxes here that are plastic. These allow you to quickly just punch your wiring through into these boxes and to be able to just go ahead and basically plug and play. And it makes it a lot faster to make your connections. Now, this particular unit has different color temperatures on it. We didn't really get into that, and I'm not going to really compare that in this video because these two are both one color LED fixtures, but the boxes on all the Halos are very similar. And so the only difference would be if you got one that did not change colors, is that you wouldn't have this portion right here. The boxes itself is relatively the same. This unit has two different knockouts on either side of it. And then on the back side here, you've got two holes here where your bracket goes, where you're going to attach this to your framing. That pretty much concludes the main points of reference for this fixture. Now, one other thing to point out with regards to these light fixtures is going to be the difference in their projected lifespan. And this unit is projected to have a lifespan of 22 years, and that's with a usage of 6 hours per day. So it's important as we compare these to make sure that we're comparing the appropriate math, because the way that they calculate the years is going to be different, and we want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. And we'll basically use the Halo as the benchmark, and we'll calculate out our hours from that one. And so this is 22 years at 6 hours a day. And then the total brightness of this fixture, this unit is 1061 lumens, which makes it the brightest of the three here. One other difference that I also wanted to point out with this is that it's also the most expensive. So this unit costs more than these two. And there's a quick caveat to that, but we'll get to that as we get into these other two. I don't want to steal the thunder from these two fixtures. So that concludes all of the major things that I wanted to mention to you all about this Halo fixture. And let's move on to the next one. This is what that unit looks like up close. This is what our box looks like here. As you can see, we've got a substantial pad here on the back side, which is helpful with making sure that you don't have any issues with the way that this fits on the fixture. And another thing that's also important to note is just that this light fits very well when you're drilling your holes with a 6-inch hole saw. This fits without any type of issues. Now let's jump over to the Ensenior brand and we'll talk about this one second. Now, these fixtures come separate, and hopefully you can see that here in the box. So your illumination piece is separate from your wiring box. So you have to make your connections here. And so similar to the one we just showed, you have to make your 2-prong connection. The Halo had 3 prongs. You got a 2-prong connection, and then we just tighten this down like this, and then there we've got it assembled. Now this unit has a knockout on either side of it, just like on the Halo, but it's got a 3rd knockout here on the bottom. Another thing that's important to note is that here on the back side, you've got 2 openings where you can run screws through the inside of the box to be able to simply screw directly into your framing member or whatever you're going to mount to. You just run your screws through here and slip this through and drop it in, and that's the next thing you need to do. Now, another feature that this light has that's similar to the Halo is that you have these punch connections here. You get 3 of them. One of them must be still in the box or something like that. Yeah, they come in a bag like that. So each one of these has 3 punch connections or mouse traps, similar to the Halo, and that's how you make your connection. And then you just close that down like that, and your connection is like this. And so the next thing that I want to mention about this one is that this unit does come with an adhesive cover over the front of it to help protect the fixture from getting scratched in shipping and handling or even in installation. But there's another thing that I also wanted to mention about this unit is that with regards to brightness, this fixture is 1050 lumens, which makes it 11 lumens less bright than the Halo, which is really, you know, basically nothing. So they're basically on the same level with regards to their overall maximum brightness. The one difference that I did notice with regards to this fixture is that the range of its dimmability was less wide than the Halo. And what I mean by that is we tested out all of these fixtures on a dimmer switch using the same dimmer switch. I'll have links to all of the specific products that we're going over in this video right here in the description box below. But when we used that dimmer switch with this fixture, there was a point where the dimmability basically just dropped out. And so we couldn't drop it down to get it extremely low light like we were able to do with the Halo. Now, I will not attribute that specifically only to the fixture since we only tried it out with one dimmer switch, but I will say that we only saw that problem significantly with this particular fixture. The other thing that I wanted to point out about the Ensenior is that when you purchase these fixtures, there's a difference in the way that they're sold, in that the majority of these fixtures are going to be sold in packages like this. This is a box of 12, and they are substantially less than the Halo recessed lights. However, the price does change when you buy singles. So when you buy singles of these fixtures, the price doubles, okay, which is still makes it less expensive than the Halo, but it's something to pay attention to, particularly if you're going to be needing to have a number of fixtures that's different than what is being sold in the packages. So let's just say that you need to have 13 fixtures or 14 fixtures, and it only comes in a pack of 12 or a pack of 16 or something like that. You have to keep that in mind and make sure that you do your math and your calculations to make sure which way it's going to make sense to buy them. Do you need to just simply buy one more, or does it make sense to go ahead and up your purchase number to 16? So that's something to just pay attention to there. So that concludes the information about our Ensenior fixture. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this, and then we're going to jump over to the Torchstar. All right, so let's talk about the Torchstar here for a moment. Let me go ahead and open this box up as well. So when we're looking at the Torchstar, it's similar in that it comes in two pieces to the Ensenior, but the connection technique that you used for assembling this is slightly different. You have to push the two pieces together, and there's a slot on each side, and you push them in together snug, and then you do a quarter turn to be able to lock them in together. So that's a little bit different than the other two altogether. The Torchstar has good dimmability and was able to dim down into the lower ranges, similar to the Halo. The difference between this fixture and the other two with regards to their brightness is that this fixture is 850 lumens, our Ensenior is 1050 lumens, and the Halo is 1051 lumens. So this fixture is substantially less bright on the top end, and you will notice that if you were comparing them side by side. And so that may not be a big deal for you depending on what you're doing. If you're going to be doing something like reading or studying by this, you may want to opt for a brighter LED. If you're going to be just basically setting mood lighting or don't plan to be doing anything that's going to require the brightest of bright lights, then it may not make a difference for you. Another thing to also keep in mind with this fixture is that these units come with wire nuts instead of our mouse traps. And so these are the traditional way that we attach our electrical wires, is with wire nuts like these. And so keep that in mind as well. This unit also has two knockouts on either side that you use to attach to your framing, similar to our Halo, which had two. We had a separate bracket on the Halo. This one has the little punch out arms here that are attached to this, and you can just screw through them to be able to make your connection. Another difference to note with the Torchstar is that they have several different models of their LED 6-inch recessed fixtures. And so you have to pay attention when you're shopping for these, and you want to look at the specs very closely on that sales page to make sure that you know which one you're getting. So as I mentioned, these have a 850 lumens rating, and they've got two other ones that I was able to find. I saw one that had specs for 650, and I saw another one that had specs for 1000. And so they have one line that's called the basic line, which I believe these fall into, but they have another line that's called an essential line, and that one is supposed to be a slight step up from these, and I believe that's the one that has the 1000 lumens. But you want to make sure that you're looking at all the specs in there, because the pricing on these between the Torchstar Basic and the Torchstar Essential is very similar in pricing. So you just want to get down into the details as you're trying to make your decision on that. Similar to the Ensenior brand, these fixtures are typically sold in packages of 12 and 16, or even 4 sometimes. And just like with the Ensenior, when you decide that you want to purchase one fixture by itself, the price doubles. So just like I said before, just make sure that you've done all your math and your calculations first to make sure that you know how many you need, and to make sure that you're spending your money most efficiently if you've got to satisfy need for an oddball number that's different than what the units that they're actually sold in exactly. Now, there's one major difference that I want to point out with this Torchstar fixture, and that really boils down to its ability to fit into our recessed holes that we've cut with our 6-inch hole saw. So as I mentioned earlier, the Halo fixtures fit in the 6-inch hole very well. You don't have to do a whole lot of finagling to be able to get them to sit in there properly if you've cut your hole straight. Ensenior fits more snug than the Halo does, which might require you to try to edge out or notch out areas in your hole if you've got some type of inconsistencies there, or if it just flat out doesn't quite fit in there. But these fixtures are a different size altogether. So they're 6-inch recessed light, but the size of the opening that you need is actually larger than 6 inches. And this is something that I did not notice until it came time to install. And as you can see here, we have a template that this fixture comes with. And when we measure that template, you will see that it's not actually 6 inches. And let me quickly show you that. All right, so I've got my template here, and I'm just going to show you the width of it. So when I put my tape measure across it, you will see that it is actually almost 6¼ inches. Hopefully you're able to see that, but it's 6¼ inches across, which means your 6-inch hole saw is not going to cut a large enough hole for these to sit in the hole properly, or to fit all the way in the hole. And so that means that you're going to have to get a different size hole saw if you can find one, or you're going to have to use a different tool to be able to cut out your holes. Now there's other things that you can use, like roto zips, or you can use a oscillating saw to be able to cut it out, and there probably are some other things that you can use, a drywall saw. You can use all these different type of tools to be able to cut, but if your 6-inch hole saw is a true 6 inches, it's not going to cut a hole that's large enough to be able to make these units sit in there properly. So something else to keep in mind. So you're probably wondering or waiting for me to give my recommendation on which one of these units I would recommend. And it's really difficult to say because I don't classify these all as being the same. And what I mean by that is the Halo fixture is at a different price point altogether than these other units. And so it's kind of difficult to be able to truly compare them from that regard. I would say that the build quality on this one feels to be a step above these units. However, that's what you would expect with a large difference in price point that you have between this fixture and these. And so keeping in mind also that these fixtures are all sold as singles. And so if you're looking at it purely from a single comparison, purchasing the unit single, then the price difference, it's less drastic than it is when you're comparing purchasing these in boxes of 12 and 16. So that's something else that you want to also keep in mind. It also really depends on what your overall purpose for the light fixtures are. You know, if the top end brightness is not going to be a huge difference for you, then the Torchstar and the Ensenior are going to essentially be in the running neck and neck with regards to which one you choose. As I mentioned before, you're going to have a different way of cutting your holes for your 6-inch Torchstar fixture because the hole is larger than 6 inches. So if you're going to be doing 1 or 2 of those, it may not be that big of a difference for you. If you're going to be installing them all over the place, that may take you drastically longer to be able to cut those holes than it would if you were able to use a 6-inch hole saw. So you just have to factor in your time and your savings. There's a nominal difference between the price of these 2 fixtures here, the Ensenior and the Torchstar. So that's just something that you want to keep in mind. The other thing that you also want to keep in mind is even though this fixture does not get as bright as the Ensenior does, this one has better dimmability, at least from the test that I ran. And so that means that if you're planning to really just try to drop your lights down, if you're going to be using it more on lower settings more frequently, if you're going to be using it in a room where you're going to be watching TV or watching movies and things like that, and you want to just have a more of a mood lighting and just kind of be able to see your way around, but not necessarily trying to actually work and need productive level lighting in the space, that's something that you also want to consider as well, because that dimmability is going to be part of your functionality that's going to make these light fixtures really come alive. It's just being able to use these on a dimmer switch and having a wider range of brightness to be able to draw from. So hopefully you all found this video informative. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.